Also, one of the things that you're devoted to are social justice. And so one of the things that you've spoken about lately is pay equity, certainly an issue that we have seen come up. We have seen the Senate vote down the Paycheck Fairness Act again. We've also seen President Obama take some executive actions in this regard. Why do you think it's so important to keep, highlighting this issue and to keep fighting it? And why is it so hard to keep having to fight for it?
Well, I think that there is a misunderstanding sometimes of what the legislation is that's at stake. We have said already, of course, that pay discrimination is illegal, and so some folks don't understand why additional legislation is needed. It's needed because we don't have good enforcement yet, and we want to give women the ability to actually know what someone else in their workplace is making and be able to bring suit to fix that problem. So we desperately need the Paycheck Fairness Act to be passed. It's been decades and decades since we had a real advance on this. Lilly Ledbetter was the patching of a hole that the Supreme Court opened, but a real advance is very much needed around the country. And here in my district, we've found by doing an analysis that actually the rate of pay for women in this district is even lower than the national average and the state average. And it's also quite low for specifically women of color. So there are a lot of communities that are really impacted, and it's not just women. It's also the men who rely on those women's paychecks as well as part of the same household. So I've called for, here in California, for our state government to do an audit of the pay of women and men in our state employment, and as well to take a look at what our subcontractors are doing, because we as a government need to be leading the way.
Now, of course, there are a lot of conservative organizations that don't support some of these policies, but also that tend to deny that paycheck inequality is something that exists. They say that a lot of the figures that are thrown out there aren't accurate. And I personally was shocked to see some women's groups, say that this is really just made up, that the notion that there is some type of unequal playing field out there for women is one that has been just fabricated and created. And I find that shocking and mind-boggling because they're really working counter to their own interests and counter to everyone's interests. So what do you say to people like that?
Well, it's important to understand that those are quote unquote women's groups with a particular conservative agenda. And that's why we're hearing some of that messaging from them. The studies indisputably show that there is a pay gap. Yes, the pay gap can be attributed to a variety of different sources, but one of them is discrimination. And when you hold all other factors equal, there is still a lack of pay that is explained only by discrimination. And so that's the part that's targeted with some of this legislation. But let's talk about the sources of the rest of the pay gap. It's things like women being the primary caretakers in their family and needing to have better access than what we have now to affordable childcare and early childhood education for their children, as well as things like paid family leave and the ability to take time off when there is a family medical crisis. So those types of supports that all families need, but that impact women most directly because we're still the primary caretakers in this society, could have a big impact on women's ability to continue to pursue their careers. And that would also help with some of the other factors that are part of the pay gap. But we also need to remember that for many women, the real pay gap is about the fact that they're in such low-wage jobs. The disproportionate share of vast majority of minimum wage and low-wage workers are women. That's why I've been advocating strongly for living wage legislation in some particular industries and for an increase in the minimum wage nationally. We're already increasing it here in California, but we can do more.
That's right. And a lot of people have pointed to that, too, that really, just increasing the minimum wage will already make big steps in terms of addressing the gender inequality that we see when it comes to being paid. Now, Sandra, as we mentioned, you are currently running for Senate. So how's it going with your campaign? Anything that has really shocked you thus far, or some lessons that have been hard learned?
It's going very, very well. It's actually, I don't think folks who aren't on the ground realize this, but it's actually a tough race. And I do really need the support of everyone who stood with me in 2012 to come back and to stand with me again. What's clear is that I'm doing very well. I have the right kind of message to win in the campaign. We just need to make sure that we have the resources to do it. And that's what political campaigns often come down to, and until we can get in there and enact campaign finance reform. So folks can sign up to contribute to the campaign, to volunteer. We have volunteer opportunities actually around the country, remote programs. So you don't have to be here in Los Angeles to be able to be part of the campaign. Everyone can go to standwithsandra.org and sign up to be part of our fight to bring a new generation of progressive leadership.
All right, Sandra, well, good luck with your campaign, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.